So with sociological thinking,
Okay.
so like in your case, how we write a paper, whenever we're going to go into a study, we are going to follow the format of your paper, which is how does A impact B?
Okay, sociological.
Now, if we're talking about it just like this, A impacts B, do you think A or B is the independent variable?
So independent would be A and
Yes.
dependent would be B.
Perfect. Okay, so just like in the scientific process, when we're going to do a scientific experiment, when we do a sociological study, we follow the method too, as far as how we look at this. So we just ask questions instead of forming a hypothesis, but it's kind of like the same thing. Does that make sense? So like if we're asking, then we're kind of implying that we assume there is a connection between A and B, whatever they are. So really quick, if you had to tell me, what do you think the difference is between an independent variable and a dependent variable?
So independent is like the one that affects another, and then dependent variable is one that gets affected by another, or gets affected.
This has always been the easiest way for me to remember it, that good old "are you acting or being acted upon?"
Okay.
So the independent variable does the acting, the dependent variable is what is acted upon. So this variable controls or affects or changes this variable.
Okay.
Alright, so does that make sense?
Yeah, well, that does make sense.
Okay. So
So then on my essay, did I not explain that or no?
you kind of did,
Okay.
but you kind of put the dependent variable as the independent variable too.
Oh, okay.
So
we'll just fix that in a second.
in the example of how does the stress of college life, which is, hang on, how does the stress of college life impact health? Tell me where you would underline the variable A in this sentence.
A would be stress of college.
So there's your A. And then B would be health.
Health, yeah.
So your dependent variable is health, not the stress. And the whole thing, the stress of college life, not just college life, is your independent variable.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. So with that example, that would be how we do that. So what we're going to look for then is different ways. So let's just talk about some. You've got some in your paper that are really good, but so if you had to just make some educated assumptions, what are some ways that the stress of college life impacts health?
Like headaches, depression, headaches, depression, what am I saying? Like, I can't think one. And then there's like breakdowns. You could have breakdowns. I don't know if that's
Like
a health problem, but like.
Oh no, mental breakdowns are a thing.
Okay.
You can have your immune system can stop functioning or at least decrease function.
You could, like,
You can have heart problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have eating disorders. Either which way, you can overeat or just starve yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's all of this and more. Stress does some pretty crazy stuff to both our body and our mind. So then what we're looking at, though, is specific stress of college life. So we would say these are the symptoms. So these are our symptoms, which is great. That's good to have in there for sure. Some ways that we want to talk about are what are some of the examples of stress of college life? What are some things that just stress all college students out?
Quizzes, tests, getting things turned in on time, like trying to get, try to understand your teachers, what they want. Like that's stressful because, I don't know, just all the homework. Like I literally have so much homework, so I feel like that's a huge one.
Grades are one.
Yeah, grades.
Okay. Yeah, all of these things are true. What about some things outside of homework? There are other things that go into the stress of college life.
For example, like trying to live on your own, like getting groceries, running errands, making sure that you're eating fine, that you're,
Yeah, we got independence, we got bills.
yeah.
Usually we're worried about dating, all of that.
Trying to balance friend life.
All of this is direct. Like, this is all components of our A.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and this is more components of our B.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so when we talk about this, we want to say all of these impact all of these in certain ways. So people that have test anxiety might get a headache before a test.
Yeah.
People that are just struggling with independence might face a breakdown or depression.
Mm-hmm.
People that are dealing with all of this might, and just the constant stress, might have immune system function problems,
Okay.
heart problems, eating disorders, all of those. So we want to talk about how does this cause all of this? And that proves our initial question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Okay, perfect. So then specific to your paper, I just want to talk about some specific sociological methods and stuff. But before we do that, in sociological thinking, just like in scientific thinking, we have research that needs to go into it.
Okay.
So there's a few reasons we do research. Why do you think we do?
To make our point, to understand it, to
Mhm. So to have
be able to explain it.
so to have concrete evidence.
Okay.
For sure. Another reason we do it is because we want to research what is already out there about the subject, so we're not just repeating.
Okay.
So whenever you go into a research paper, especially like this, the first thing you want to do is just do some basic time skimming and researching, figure out what's already out there, see what inspires you to do something new, or at least expand on what's already out there.
Okay.
And then you're going to use the research to give yourself concrete evidence. So that's when you pull in all these different sources and you combine them in maybe a way that hasn't been done yet.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So in research, there's, looking up stuff that's already been done. What else is there? What's another way to do research that doesn't involve using somebody else's work?
That doesn't involve using
Mhm.
doing studies.
Yeah, perfect. Doing studies, doing surveys. Yeah, doing studies, you do your own testing, etc. So when it talks about that in your paper, this is the section it's talking about. What study, what survey, what kind of research would you do?
Okay.
So if we were looking into this, you would definitely spend up some time researching what's out there about these situations.
Okay.
But what would you do to do something yourself? Like, what kind of study would you do?
Isn't that surveys and studies that your
Yes.
study?
Yes. So if you did your own study, how are you going to do that? Are you going to collect a sample of people? Like, that's what they want you to go into.
Okay.